So, have you even had a moment to think about 100 races in Formula One?
100th race, I haven't had so much time to think about it, but at the same time, it's not like it's. I don't feel like I'm that young. I feel like I've been in F1 a while, but I'm still one of the least experienced drivers on the grid. So it's like kind of a weird mix. I see all my friends; they're already at 130 or so. So yeah, I mean, definitely had some highs and lows. Learned a lot, feel more experienced, learnt life. So yeah, it's been good. Enjoyed the ride. It hasn't come quickly, but hasn't come slowly. It's come at 100 races.
So, if you reflect on yourself quickly,
Yes.
who was that Alex that came onto the grid for the first time?
The first time joining Formula One, I was a super shy kid. Didn't have nowhere near as much confidence. Relied more on my natural ability in some ways, and I remember it being in Melbourne, so you can imagine the bit more pressure, bit more of a proper track to try and get your eye into, and I was really inexperienced there because I didn't do much testing before my first race. I did 1.5 days before my first race weekend, so I just remember the emotion. I remember the nervousness more than anything else. Just hoping that I got off the line. That was the main focus, not stall it or go into anti-stall. But it was really special and actually made me feel really comfortable. Surprisingly, after all the nerves and everything going on, had a really positive first race weekend in Formula One, and that just kind of made me feel like I belong. I wanted to do the Abu Dhabi test post-season the year before, didn't have time to do it, so ended up doing a day and a half in Barcelona because it was a 3-day test, but I had to share it with my teammate. And then, yeah, that was it. Rocked up. Had around Melbourne as well. Melbourne is not a nice one to start off with because it's all about confidence and walls, bumpy, that kind of thing. So yeah, I felt like because it was so tricky, the fact that it started off well made me realize, okay, I was not dealt the best cards to start my career, but at least it's gone decently well, and now I can build on that and go into the year feeling confident in myself. I think every driver says the same thing about them growing into Formula One and growing up in Formula One. I think the first thing is the speed doesn't change that much. I think it does change a little bit. I think your understanding about how to get speed and be quick is slightly different, especially in Formula One to other categories. But it's so much the experience. I can't explain it, but it's just the knowledge of what do the tyres need, what does the car need, what do I need to do to the car in terms of setup, and how can I manage my body better, how can I be consistent through a whole year with my energy and all these kind of things, what I need to do for training, nutrition, sleep, jet lag, all these kind of things. But also what I thought was something which I didn't really account for was as you get older in Formula One, you also just become more mature. I feel like there's kind of your experience, but there's also maturity. And so when I was first joining Formula One, I was very shy. I didn't really want to speak too much to the engineers, didn't know how to speak well to the engineers, didn't know how to speak to the team, mechanics, didn't know how to create a team, how to create that environment. You're just kind of surviving and just racing. And so things like that, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of things like team talks and motivational speeches, but as you get older and as you get more mature as a person, as a human being, being in charge, well, not me being in charge, but being a part of 1,000 people and being a big influence to the 1,000 people, you really need to learn life skills. And so I think one of the biggest things was learning life skills.
What is kind of one trait about you that really has stayed exactly the same since day one?
I would say my personality hasn't changed much. So being chaotic hasn't changed. So I think from day one to now, I'm still the same. more mature, but mature chaos. And the other thing, more technical, is my driving style hasn't actually changed that much. The way that I drive a car hasn't changed, but they're the two. For sure, there are many examples where I could have done a better job earlier in my career, especially my first couple of years in Formula One. But I can delve into them, but truthfully, there's the only reason why I've improved and who I am today is because of them weaknesses and finding them out, learning from them. Obviously, would rather have done 5 solid years in Formula One rather than take a break away from it. But if anything, that gave me time to reflect and to really think about the areas I needed to improve on. So there's nothing I would have changed, but in terms of what I do now, if I repeated my first 2 years in Formula One, I'm sure it would have been a different story.
That's excellent. So the now, very good situation. What were those first feelings towards Williams and that new challenge when it presented itself to you?
I think the first feeling I had, obviously I was speaking with Jost at the time. That was my main port of contact at Williams. So I had a couple of discussions mid 2021. I was at Red Bull Ring. I remember that very vividly. I remember meeting Jost at the back of the paddock just for a quick chat and asking, well, both of us asking each other's situation. And obviously at that time, George was not confirmed, but within the team, everyone knew he was, not publicly, but within the team, everyone knew he was going to go to Mercedes. So there was that spot opening up. And first impressions, feelings, firstly, gratitude towards the team. Felt like to be able to be allowed a second opportunity within Formula One is extremely rare. I think it only really works when a driver's been super accomplished and want to come back. But otherwise, for them to give me a second chance was very special. And then the second would just be this feeling like the team is such a unit, so close together. So you really felt this bond within everyone, which was very, very nice. It was a good feeling as soon as I signed the contract and as I walked through the gates, through the factory into Grove for the first time. Immediately we started off in a positive way. It's not been easy, our journey at Williams. I don't think anyone can say that we've had a smooth time. When I first joined, I felt like there was a lot of work to do, and we were quite far back. What made me, extend my stay at Williams was the fact that I've been a part of the project. I know the project. I know that I know what it takes for us to get to the top, and I see them happening. I think that's literally it. I spend time with James and the board, and I hear where they are, and their honesty as well is really appreciative of just seeing the magnitude of the journey we're on. And obviously we are still in that process, but we're tracking in the right direction. And so for me, that was enough.
And you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but just what has that slight transition been like, moving into a proper senior leadership style of person? For myself, becoming a leader is still something I don't want to hold my hand up and say, I'm this, do that kind of thing. It's very much really trying to motivate and find out how I can help in certain situations. I find that as a driver, we often see ourselves quite close-minded, and we focus on lap time, and that's pretty much it. And so speaking with everyone and seeing the people in the factory, and seeing what do they need from me, if there's anything I can help with, voice their opinions. It could just be as simple as that, trying to figure out where we can really improve. I think there's some areas that we're focusing on more than other areas within the team, just because of some things are already at a very strong level. That's been my main focus, and I enjoy it. I feel like when I joined, I was a little bit timid around it. But because I've become integrated within the team, it just seems, everything that we do, we want to be the best. We want to do it in the best kind of way. And so it's almost like before it felt like I want to do it, and now it's almost like we need to do it. The easiest way to kind of explain it, I think most drivers will do this to an extent, but I think at Williams we really do push it. Most weeks in the factory, I would be in the factory 2 or 3 days a week. 2 days of sim, sometimes one, definitely sometimes one, but often doing factory visits to each department within the factory. So we're kind of going off one by one now, and we're speaking individually to certain groups within the company, trying to help them, for them to teach us as well, so we can understand how they work, how come some things maybe takes a longer time than normal, or what can be done, and how are things changing for us to become a top team. And it's really interesting to see that when you spend time with the people within the factory, the boys and girls, you can see just how much change is happening. There's a clear feeling within the team that there are some areas where the process is so different, it's taking time to readjust and to relearn, but everyone sees the brighter side. Everyone sees the benefits coming later into the subsequent years. But that's why when we talk about the whole process has been changed, I say it in the TV and the media, I say it all the time, but when you speak to the people on the ground, you really see it, you really feel it too. So there's a bit of that going on. And then there's just general stuff, every Monday after races, we're in meetings, trying to focus on different areas in the group, focusing on the weaknesses that we have, chasing on them, making sure they're being actively fixed or working on fixes for the future. I mean, even in recruitment as well, trying to help with recruitment, trying to help the team find the right people, working with James, trying to see what experience we can bring in using my contacts as well. So there's loads of things. And also even on the personal side, trying to help my teammates as well, trying to obviously get Franco up to speed as much as I can, and just try to create a foundation where we can learn quicker for next year. If we talk about the future of Formula One, where do I think it's going? I think it's getting complicated, truthfully. I think it's going to be very interesting. In some ways, I feel it's almost a shame because all the teams are closing up right now, and we're getting into a really sweet spot with teams, fighting race to race. That's all going to get blown out of proportion in 26, and we're going to get back to another few years of everyone trying to merge again and get back to a close championship. But in terms of everything else, more races than ever. You can take that as you want to take it, but I think it's exciting. A lot of street races coming along as well. More time in the cities. Yeah, I mean, it's good. Personally, I'm more focused on making sure that I'm really prepared for these new regs. So whether it's that time at the factory, because there's such a huge change in the car, really nailing the weaknesses we've had with this new generation, well, I'll call it new, since 2022. Really tracking close with the simulators. So we do a lot of development work, and we're going to start very soon the 2026 car, and just start to get concepts down and start to figure out what direction we want to go in.
So what are you most excited about in terms of continuing this journey with Williams then? I assume you want to achieve here.
There's lots of ways you can give, what do I want to achieve at Williams and whatnot. To give it very bluntly, I would love to be able to score a podium with Williams coming up into the new regulation. I don't think it's possible next year, unless we have a crazy race, which is more than possible. But on a normal race weekend, it's going to be very tricky for us to score podiums. But in 2026, 2027, there's some definite chances to do. So that would definitely be a tick off the list. Other than that, I just want to have success. It's very generic, but generally, I want to see the culture change that I know we can do. Once that switches, and everyone starts to see what we can do with the right mindset, I think it's going to just catapult us. We're going to jump, but that's the work.
Carlos,
Yes.
a couple of questions on him.
Mm-hmm.
What did you first think when you heard Carlos's name as a possible teammate?
Immediately, first thoughts were quick driver, deep thinker, and smart as well. I think he's very adaptable. His driving style is very adaptable. He has the experience, obviously, with Ferrari, and he's learned a lot being with a lot of different teams in his career. I'm really interested to see what he can bring. I think, in some ways, for me, there's a real keenness to understand, does he have the same opinions of me of where we're weak in the car? And maybe there's a different idea that he has, that maybe, for example, the way the Ferrari car drives, that we can do it in a different way than I have been trying to achieve it. Things like that I think could be really, really interesting. And also I just think it's great for the team. I think if you think about the energy it's brought in, but also there's definitely more motivation within the team immediately. I think we know as an organisation we're going to need to step up. I think there's no secret about that, and you can already see that happening. You can already see there's an appreciation and an acceptance that when Carlos comes in, we've got to be better, and that's great. I think that drives us all forward, and that includes me as well.
Would you have any kind of message for Carlos?
I'll tell it to him to his face, but not really. Buckle up, get ready for the ride.
Who's been your closest supporter on the grid over your career so far?
Closest supporters would definitely be George. So he was definitely a part of why I got my Williams seat. I've always been close with Lando as well. Everyone's been. I have a lot of friends. Charles, Max, but I'd say George is the main one. Off the grid, clearly family, but of course Patrick, my performance coach, who I've been with since the very beginning of Formula One, and my manager, who was working in comms at Red Bull in 2020. So them two have stuck with me since then, and it's just been kind of us lot, like a very small group. I've purposely kept it very small. I love that. I love that kind of it's the team within inside the team.
Is there an embarrassing moment or a funny situation you found yourself in that you'll never forget from the first couple of races?
I don't ever recall embarrassing moments. I think I actually just get them out of my head. I purposely, my brain just dumps it. So I can't remember anything that's been aggressively embarrassing. There are some, but I can't think of it. Yes, I guess it's to come.
What's one race you would go back and redo completely?
Oui. Well, the crash in Melbourne last year wasn't great. Wouldn't have done that again. I would say that's the worst one. I remember Nürburgring 2020 stands out too. That wasn't a good race. But I'll leave it like that.
Your top moment, hands down.
Top moment, hands down, unfortunately, is not in a Williams car. It's my first podium in Formula One. So yet my first time seeing the Thai flag behind me on the podium was very special. And it was a really good race as well. It was in Mugello in Italy, so I had a really strong race there. I think my best race in Williams would have been, I think that Canada weekend last year was really special. But my biggest moment actually was my first race back at Williams. I remember I got into Q2 in my first qualifying session in Bahrain in 2022, and that was surprisingly emotional because I think I came back from a year away, and there was kind of there's always going to be this anxiety and pressure to I've got this second opportunity to make it work, and to be able to get that Q2 straight away a huge amount of relief around, just I remember the in-lap in Q1 just being like, okay, you're through. I was like, oh, that feeling was, I'll remember it as clear as day, I think, to the day I die. But yeah, it was very special. Those 100 races done, hopefully many more to come. The story isn't over, and it's only just begun. That's a rhyme right there. There you go.
Yeah, wonderful.